A while back, it was my pleasure to have the crew from Prairie Yard Garden make a trip out to my neck of the woods, garden hike headquarters, I guess you could say. If you're interested in a little behind the scenes look at my humble little channel and how Garden Hike got started, I'll put a link in the description of the video their crew put together and recently posted on their social media. I was surprised to learn that Prairie Yard Garden, they've been doing this now for over 30 years on a wide variety of agriculture and horticulture related topics. And I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one that has some technical difficulties when filming. Before you head over to their site though, I had a chance to visit with the current hostess of the program. I'm next to Mary Holm. She's the star of Prairie Yard Garden. They were kind enough to travel all the way from Minnesota. They're doing a tour of my gardens. I'm Kevin from Garden Hike. And as far as I know Mary a little bit. You used to have a garden center.
Yes.
And then you and your husband moved to Minnesota and you were in the wildflower collection business. Tom worked at a research garden and now you're retired having fun and looking at everybody's yard. So what did I miss? And what do you do with Prairie Yard Garden?
About 10 years ago, Mike, the producer, I was over visiting with him because we collaborated on some other stuff. And I asked if he'd found a new host because I knew that the old host wanted to retire. And he said, yes, I did. And I said, that'd be a fun job as I walked out the door. About a month later, he called me and says, remember when you said that would be a fun job? And so that person, the new person, had some real medical issues and couldn't continue. So we ended up filming 10 shows in about a month and a half. So it was hairy, but he's been stuck with me ever since.
Were you comfortable on camera? Did you enjoy doing it or was it like hard at first?
Oh, it's still hard because I've gotten more used to it. At least my knees don't shake now every time. But it is, I tell people, I have the best job in the world because I get to meet the nicest people. I get to see the most beautiful places, just like your yard.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
The garden center, where was it in North Dakota that you initially had a garden center?
Yes, we had our garden center in Nitchie, North Dakota for over 20 years, and that is up in the northeast corner, so if people know where Pembina is and Cavalier, we were halfway between Grand Forks and Winnipeg, so we could go to those places if we wanted to go out for a night on the town. We could either go equal distant to either one of those.
So do Tom and you have horticultural training? Self-taught, just a love for it? How did that all play out?
Well, I actually grew up on a farm at Strasburg, North Dakota. And, you know, what's new, it comes around from the old because we pretty much grew everything that we ate. We had beef cattle, we had dairy cattle, we had hogs, we had chickens, and then we had a garden by the farm that we could water. We had a garden out in the field that was on its own. We had a potato patch, we had a sweet corn patch, we had a pumpkin patch.
So it was just part of you, just growing up with it, like a lot of the older generation. And my wife and I were younger than you, but we've kind of kept that going because it was the same with our parents, where everything was grown and harvested by yourself, and you stored it through the winter. Interesting.
And good quality food, and you knew where it came from.
Yeah, and I think there's a movement coming back to that. Yeah,
I agree.
So you do a wide range of topics with Prairie Yard Garden, and it's Upper Midwest, Northern Great Plains. Is that kind of your primary territory?
It is. It is. Because, you know, we're kind of different out here than we are in a lot of the other zones.
Are you saying different out here in North Dakota?
No. In the Upper Midwest, it gets
sure we
cold.
are. Yeah, sure.
You betcha. You know, we get cold and we get dry and we get rain and, you know, more different conditions than a lot of the other parts of the United States. And so when you look at a tag and a plant's got to be hardy for zone 4 or zone 3, it better be hardy to there because
doing my YouTube videos, I've noticed you get so many comments, even from around the world. You really have to become more aware of, wow, this doesn't grow everywhere, or what grows for me, boy, it doesn't grow for you. And so it's interesting getting that feedback. At first it was like, oh, okay, but now I really enjoy it. Getting the different comments.
Well, you know, sometimes people will email me through the station and they'll say, how can I grow this? And it's from Florida, and it's kind of like, oh, I've never grown in Florida, so I don't really know. So I try to give them the best advice that I can, but then I also suggest they go to their local garden center or local extension office, because those people will know
Right.
their conditions there. And then, when you get something from Northern Canada or from Europe, I've never even been to Europe, so I don't know. So you do the best.
That's where you need to go next. You need to get over to Europe and do this, right? The whole gang, the crew.
Well, I'll just settle with getting to North Dakota and some of the other places around. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And that's what I went to Arizona recently, and I did some filming at their arboretum, all the cacti, the succulents. And it was just a different world.
Yes.
I mean, I had to research the plants to get the spelling right. Wasn't sure if I wrote it down properly. And so it was really a learning curve. I took for granted how much we just absorb in our plant zones. And on that hardiness question that you mentioned, what I've learned, our soils don't always have the proper acidity or pH to do well. So even though something might be hardy, you don't have the proper soil. So that's something to keep in mind on that too.
Well, even in northern Minnesota, you can go grow grapes quite easily and blueberries, and because it's more peaty soil up there. But then you get south, we're more the alkali, kind of like out here in North Dakota, and then you get into the valley, and the Red River Valley, and you got the clay. So when we had our greenhouse at Nitchie, we were kind of right on the border. To the west of us was Walhalla, and that was a sandier soil, and up on the escarpment, and then over to the east of us was Pembina and the Red River Valley.
Changes so fast.
Exactly. And when Tom would do landscaping, you'd get to some of that heavy clay, you'd try to push a shovel in and it bounced back at you because the soil was so hard and so heavy. So you kind of really had to take into account which plants would do well for the people.
Okay, so where can people find Prairie Yard and Garden? I found out, and this was news to me, that you've been doing, not you personally, but Prairie Yard and Garden's been around for 35 plus years.
Yep.
So a lot of content. Where can people find you, watch your content in the various places that you've been?
Prairie Yard and Garden has been around for this. We're filming our 38th year, so you're going to be on the 38th season. And people, it shows on Pioneer Public TV, but with the modern social media technology, we're also on YouTube. So people can find us anywhere on YouTube. And if you just type in Prairie Yard and Garden, YouTube will pop right up.
Okay. So once again, thank you to Prairie Yard and Garden for providing me the opportunity to share my gardens with your audience. Make sure you check out their site for a wide range of topics for all of us who love the outdoors and gardening. We appreciate you stopping by Garden Hike. We'll see you again next video.